Welcome back from the commercial break. This is Leadership His Way. Leadership God's Way. This program is brought to you by a dedicated team called the Leadership Support Group. Now, from the name, so these are people who are willing to walk with you, your journey of leadership. But also coming to you from the $1 million view, that is Namirembe Guest House. Therefore, if you're looking for a place where to relax from, where to chill from, where to meditate from, where to pray from, look no further. Come at the hill, and Namirembe Guest House has the best accommodation, the best buffet. What can I say? Just come here and witness. But it's of course a place full of sanity. Therefore, we recommend it because we know you will also love the environment. You will not be inconvenienced. So we are talking about servant leadership. And before the break, we promised to come back and talk about the characteristics of servant leadership. Mr. Sambaga,
Yes.
take us through the characteristics of servant leadership.
Okay, thank you. A couple of characteristics of servant leadership. One, as I going given by definition, that servant leader puts the needs of others first. And I'm going to give examples from the Bible. When the children of Israel were traveling, they demanded that Aaron, while Moses had gone to meet the Lord, they demanded that Aaron makes them an image for them to worship. And Aaron agreed to do that, and he made a calf image for them to worship. And when Moses came back, he found that the people were worshiping an image, and he was very disappointed. And God had decided to punish them. But again, Moses, being a meek man, he put the needs of the people first. And he did that by pleading with God to forgive these people. And in other words, he put the needs of the people first. He could have opted to say, well, let them suffer the consequences. But he didn't. He chose to plead for them. And God forgave them and restored them. And so that's one of the characteristics of a servant leader. In our day-to-day leadership, ideally, we as leaders should be able to interrogate and be the cushion between punishing people and helping them realize their mistakes. And that's exactly what Moses did, and that's what leaders should do. Help people, they led, to know their mistakes, and they reform. And that's what putting the needs of others first is about. Second characteristic is that leaders are compassionate. Servant leaders are compassionate. As you lead, you'll definitely come across different scenarios. But in those scenarios, there is an opportunity for you to demonstrate compassion with the people that you lead. In Matthew 9:36, Jesus himself had done, after walking and healing and doing many miracles, he came and saw the crowds that were following him. And the Bible says that he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, and like sheep that were lost. And he provided food. He did miracles and provided food for them. He could have left them to go, but his compassion compelled him to give them food and water because that's what they needed most at that point. Again, being the servant leader that Jesus Christ was, he demonstrated compassion by providing food when the people needed it most. The third characteristic is that for the leader, the destiny of whatever it is that he does is for the public good and not his own ego. And that is very important. You don't do things for yourself. You do them for the good of the people, those you lead, and even those you serve. And so your destiny is for the public good, not your own ego. And if you read 1 Samuel 17:46, David had come face to face with Goliath. And before he attacked him, he promised that he was going to win Goliath. And in his own words, he said, the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. He was giving glory and honor to God. He wasn't going to attribute the victory to himself. And he added and said, all those gathered here will know that it's not by sword or spear that the Lord saves. For the battle is the Lord's, not David's. And so he did not try to take any credit for the defeat of Goliath. He was attributing the victory that he was about to receive to God himself. So whatever it is that you do, your destiny is for the public good. It's not for your individual gain, like Robby said. The fourth characteristic is that of servant leadership is that one has to be patient and not vengeful. And as a leader, you will definitely come across, as you govern and as you lead, by the way, every eye is on you. And the people will say everything good and everything bad about you. Now, what distinguishes a servant leader from any other leader is that for you, you do not listen to everything that is being said about you, especially the negative. So, decide you have to be purposeful, you have to be very intentional to just look the other side. And then you continue doing what you believe is right. This one, I can give you an example. In Numbers 12:1-15, Moses, as he was leading Israel, Miriam decided to criticize him for marrying a Cushite woman. And unfortunately for Miriam, God's judgment was instant. She got leprosy. When Moses came back from meeting God, he found her with leprosy. And again, knowing that Miriam had criticized him, and that's the reason she was getting leprosy, he could have said, well, my dear sister, you deserve it. But he didn't do that. He decided to go back to God and pleaded that God forgives her and that God heals her. And that's exactly what happened. So that's one characteristic of a servant leader: does not take revenge. The servant leader ignores, look the other side. The fifth characteristic that a servant leader delegates, empowers, decentralizes responsibilities. Does not over-centralize. And that is very important. Jethro, when he came to see Moses and realized how much Moses was overwhelmed, he asked him to appoint other people below him who could help him with the administration and the ministry of leading Israel. So that is basically decentralizing and delegating responsibility. That's what servant leaders do. Servant leaders act in ways to achieve things that outlast them. That is the sixth characteristics. Servant leaders do not do things and think that those things will end with their time. They do things that outlive them, and that's what we are called to do. So, as a leader, make sure that you lead people, do things that will outlive you, and don't have any reservations about that. The seventh one is that servant leaders seek growth of their followers to the maximum potential. Servant leaders are not threatened by their subject, by the people they lead. They are not threatened because they can be substituted. No. Servant leaders groom leaders, they build their capacities, and choose even to develop people who are better than themselves. They are not fearing that they will be taken advantage of. And that's what servant leaders do. So those are some of the characteristics of servant leaders. Okay.
Dr. Ek, picking it up from there, any more characteristics?
I think I'll just sum up what he has said because it's been very, he has brought it out very well. A servant leader is a secure leader.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be secure as you know your abilities, you know your weaknesses, you know why you are in that position of leadership, you have the grace of God, you are not competing with anybody, so you can afford to do what Patrick has gone through. And as you see, all those come out of a strength, not fear, it's not apologetic, but it's secure. It's secure. That when my time comes to go, I will go. As the locals say, with no bunch. That's enough bunch. Yeah, but many times when, for example, an insecure leader will find it very difficult to delegate. Okay? Because you think, this one, as he goes there, maybe he will do this and that. So he does not want anyone among those he's leading to be seen to be better. Okay? Because it's always me. I don't want this one to take over from me. They can't take criticism. So I'm just wrapping it up that those characteristics come out of a secure person. And our security is in the Lord Jesus.
Wow. Yes, Mr. Muhumuza.
I want to add two other characteristics.
Yes, please.
One is humility.
Mm.
A servant leader must be humble. If you're not humble and you are full of pride, you will never be a successful servant leader. Servant leadership is not natural and normal. And therefore, another characteristic is that the servant leader must be God-fearing, must be godly. Left on our own, I'm the man, I'm the head, I'm the boss. My title, I'm the chief, I'm the CEO, I'm the director, you know. Those titles get into their heads. And they want everybody to know, fear, to give them space. But if you are godly, if you fear God, if you love God, you want to honor Him. And godliness makes you humble because you know that it's God who has selected you. You are not better than any other. There are many people could be doing that job and doing it better than you. But God has given you that opportunity, that responsibility out of love, out of His favor. And therefore, you know that it's not you, not by your might, but by the grace of God. So because you know who has appointed you and you're confident about Him and yourself, you want to be humble. Secondly, if you're godly, you know that God calls us to love and to serve. 2 commandments: love God, love your neighbor. Now, a servant leader knows that the people he's leading, she's leading, are the neighbor called love. And so when you love, then you serve. You serve faithfully the people because you know that they are your brothers and sisters who've been given to you by God to serve.
Okay. There is something that we would want to discuss before we wind up. Dr. Eke, I'll start from you. What happens to a leader if they're not a servant leader in their leadership style and the people they lead?
It will be the opposite of what we've been talking about. First of all, I don't see any teamwork. The vision will not be shared, so people cannot follow effectively if they don't know where you are leading them. The people you lead do not have that security that you are for them, and therefore the outputs will be compromised. The quality of service will be compromised. And interestingly, such a leader will become even more insecure because he knows that his team is not happy with his leadership. I've seen teams that just sit and wait and they just do what the leader tells them. No initiative. And as a human being, I mean, you can't be firing on all fronts. You need people, in your team you need people who are better and actually verbalize the fact that you are better than this, you do this, you are better than me, do the other. So it is the opposite of what we've been talking about. That team will not be productive. The people will not experience the grace of God. Okay? They will not grow as individuals. Because a servant leader grows people through delegation and the qualities we have talked through. And then the leader misses a very, very important chance of telling the people the gospel, because they are not talking. Okay, maybe he's just giving out commands. There's a place I was in, and this man was always saying, if you don't do this, you won't graduate. If you don't do this, well, I will fire you. So you are always like, isn't there any other isn't there any other result if I don't do this? I will not. So you don't want to lead people in fear. When people are relaxed, when people are sure of your leadership, they will be innovative. They would want to work under you. They will watch your back. It's amazing. But a tyrant, no. Everybody will be kind of trying to survive under that rule. And when you go, you don't want to leave a place and everybody says, gosh, good riddance. But I also I want us to appreciate that servant leadership also starts in the home. A tyrant over a husband cannot be a servant leader at work. No. Even us as wives, if you are not a servant leader at work, you will not play your role as a wife. These things start at home, and we need to appreciate that leadership, God's way, starts in the home. Because that is the crucible God gave us. Okay? As we bring up godly offsprings, as we relate man and wife, these things we are talking about start from there. If this man never saw his father talk nicely or without commanding, he will grow up thinking that in order to be a dad and a leader in the home, you shout out commands, nobody answers, that will be talking back, that will be disrespecting me. A servant leader does not canvass for his own respect. It comes out of those he's leading. So the opposite is what I've been talking about.
Okay.
Trouble.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eki. Mr. Muhumuza, did you want to add on that?
I mean, just emphasize that
Okay.
if there's no servant leadership, it's going to be pain.
Okay.
It'll be pain for those who are led. It'll be pain for the leader themselves, because there's going to be opposition, sabotage, strikes, even sometimes passive. They're there, but they're not working. They're not striking. So it creates a lot of pain, and at the end of the day, it creates failure. The organization, the circle, the nation will fail because there's no servant leadership.
Okay. Mr. Sambaga, before you wind up, you gave us very many examples of servant leaders, but kindly give us some examples of leaders that were not servant leaders.
Well, in our day-to-day context, we have some non-servant leaders. And I can just give categories of that. We have autocrats. Autocrats or dictators. Those are not servant leaders because they prioritize themselves over the people, over those they lead, and nothing else matters. And so those are examples of these leaders who are not servants. The other ones are the corrupt. Surely, we have, and in Uganda we are not short of corrupt people. And as long as one is corrupt, then you don't have the element of servant leadership, because then you are taking everything that should be going to the people that you lead for yourself, for you as me, and then nothing for the people. No wonder we have broken infrastructure everywhere, because we have corrupt leaders. And so I don't need to mention specifics, but we all know. As long as you are corrupt, then you are not a servant leader. Disqualify yourself. Then we have leaders who build toxic work environments. Those are also not servant leaders. Like a doctor said, you are in this environment where the leader doesn't delegate, doesn't trust the staff, doesn't share a vision, doesn't provide a purpose for which they exist. And so there is threats everywhere, how they are going to be fired, how he reminds everybody how he's the chief executive. Well, that's a toxic work environment, and I think that's an example of a leader who is not a servant. Obviously, the other one is leaders who are revengeful, who they are ready to shoot you down at the earliest opportunity because you did this, and they will definitely want to shoot you down. So those are some of the examples of leaders who are not servant leaders.
Give us your closing remarks as we wind up this talk.
Okay, servant leadership is a divine call for all people of God, and all of us do well to live a life of a servant leader, because if you don't do that, then things will not work out. You will not be a successful manager. You'll actually fail, and everybody will fail with you. The organization will fail with you. The nation will fail with you. So that is it is a disaster. The family will fail with you because of your lack of demonstration of servant leadership. So this is an opportunity for us to reflect. Can we all adopt traits and characteristics of servant leaders? Because that's what God calls us to. When He calls us to in leadership, He expects us to be servant leaders. And the examples that we have shared were all biblically based, and they are examples of servant leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sambaga. Dr. Eki, your closing remarks.
Servant leadership is possible because you have the grace of God, because you have the wisdom, because God Himself is with us.
Thank you so much. Mr. Muhumuza, your closing remarks.
Servant leadership is God's way. And unless you have God and I have God in my heart and as my leader, I'll not be able to be a servant leader. We can't just try to mimic characteristics of a servant leader if we don't have Christ in our hearts. So if we've backslidden, let's repent and go back to God. If we've never accepted God as our leader, let's embrace Him. Then He'll make it possible, easy and natural to be servant leaders, because servant leadership, that is His way.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much to you, esteemed viewer. Wow, servant leadership. Now, it's a moment of reflection. Are you a servant leader? Which kind of leader are you? That's the big question. So throughout the entire night, probably by tomorrow morning, you'll have an answer after meditating upon that. But it's been a pleasure having you watching this program, Leadership His Way, by the Leadership Support Group. Edrine Mukalazi is my name. I've worked with Jonan, I've worked with Esther, Moses, and very many other people out there. And from the entire crew, we wish you a blessed evening.